is that you're not gonna retire this year after you win third title.
Okay, I will tell you the story.
Okay.
What's up, desktopers? Xavier Woolsey for Desktop Bodybuilding, and in this video we're discussing Big Ramy speaking on retirement, and he answers the question if he'll retire after this year's Mr Olympia and why, plus new physique updates from him, what's his biggest weaknesses, how many followers Big Ramy has gained in 2 weeks, and is he not listening to his coach Chad Nicholls. We've got all that plus much more coming up in this video, guys. I hope you enjoy it. What's up, desktopers? Now let's get straight into this one. So on the latest episode of the Menace Podcast released today, it features Milos Sarcev, Dennis James, the host, Chris Cormier, the real deal, and Big Ramy, Mamdou Elsbaye, your 2-time Mr Olympia. And really, we wanted to see an interview with Big Ramy for some time now. We see these ones in other languages, and really the English-speaking bodybuilding community isn't getting a lot from Big Ramy, who's your 2-time Mr Olympia, and people have been wanting this. He didn't show up at the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing. There's lots of stuff that's gone on with Big Ramy, and many people believe that if he doesn't nail it 100%, or at least have a clear victory at this year's Mr Olympia, he may not get that title. So it was really cool to hear from him on this podcast. So shout out to Dennis James for getting Big Ramy on there, and he's obviously been out there in Dubai as well, training Big Ramy recently too. So here's a bit of what Big Ramy had to say. He speaks on a whole bunch of stuff, as I mentioned at the start of this video. Let's get straight into it and go over it all.
I think I already heard is that you're not gonna retire this year after you win third title.
Okay, I will tell you the story.
Okay.
Before I start, my kids, they ask me, they're still young. They asked me, but because I don't have a lot of time to be with them, and they asked me. I said, okay, let me training and do that stuff until 38. But I will be after 38. I will retire, but I don't know. I will be Mr. Olympia when I'm 38, and I can't live.
Now, I thought he said on Thursday he tells his kids he'll retire, but then on Saturday he wants to be Mr. Olympia. So I don't know if he actually said Thursday or if at 30 he would retire, because he's well past 30 at this point. I don't know exactly how old Big Ramy is, but I know he's up around 37, 38, somewhere around there. So obviously it's, he's not retiring at 30 years of age. So I'm assuming that he's sort of indecisive because he wants to spend more time with his kids, but also he's got, wants to be Mr. Olympia, wants to be multiple-time Mr. Olympia. But let's listen on.
I can't live that because 2 reasons. Because it's not about me right now only. Yes, I still have a passion to win Mr. Olympia many times, but if you see my country and the Middle East, how that very important for them, you will be trained like a horse. You never stop. It's not about me only, no.
So obviously Egypt are mad about their sports, and bodybuilding is up there. So Big Ramy is a huge celebrity in Egypt. So that's why he's saying it's not about me. And he said when you've got the amount of support and the amount of people sort of behind him, he said you train like a horse. So it must mean, basically you never stop. You just train. So obviously Big Ramy said there's 2 reasons. We got one in this video. I don't know what the other one exactly is, unless he mentioned it somewhere in there I didn't quite understand. But it seems like Big Ramy will not be retiring after this year's Mr. Olympia, which is huge news, because I believe he did say in another interview that he would retire after this year's Mr. Olympia. So perhaps he's saying that publicly on mainstream media in Egypt or wherever it was, because his kids will see it, and his kids obviously probably want him to retire at some point because he wants to spend more time with them, all that sort of stuff, which I totally understand being a dad myself. But obviously the country does want him to compete, and he's a huge celebrity over there in Egypt.
Hey, look at Ramy sitting there. It looked like he need a sports bra. Look at that.
No, but doesn't look at Ramy right now. Doesn't it look like somebody photoshopped and stretched the picture?
Yes, Big Ramy looks photoshopped 100%. When you actually look at him on that screen, he looks ridiculous. He looks like one of these guys who's simvoled up, which, people have made the claims lately about the shoulders, which I don't think is simvoled up at all. I think they're just spot injected and they've just blown up. But yeah, he definitely looks photoshopped in these, and I don't think there's synthol all over his body too. He just has a ton of muscle.
Actually, I want to hear Ramy. I want to hear you answer the question first, but I want to ask you guys something. Go ahead, Ramy. Your turn.
Okay. I think it's my weakness point. I try all the time to broken. It's not a muscle. It's not a muscle to broke. I need to get the condition. And I try every year for that. I lost many times for that.
So it's cool that Ramy actually recognizes that it's a conditioning issue mostly for him. Really, if he comes in condition and he comes, big enough, which he pretty much always just about seems to do it. There's that 1 year where Chris Cormier prepped him for the Olympia, but I heard obviously a crazy travel storage and sponsorship commitments, and they just couldn't fill him up in time. And he did look much better after that one as well, but I think that was probably a better package than the average we're seeing from Big Ramy over the years. But like you said, conditioning is his issue, so it seems like that's going to be a huge focus for him, and he's big right now, and he's in pretty good condition right now, so he has a pretty good, I suppose, point to start at around 13 weeks out. Now we are from a 2022 Mr. Olympia,
and that's why I said he's one in a billion. I think he has. I seriously believe that he has a myostatin deficiency.
100%, 100%. He probably looks the weight and grows. Yeah.
He just from yesterday to today, he gained 1.5 kilos.
So that's crazy. So gaining 1.5 kilos, what does that mean? That means about 3 to 4 pounds in one day while this guy's actually prepping and cutting down for Mr. Olympia. This is how much of a freak Big Ramy is. And if he's gaining that amount of weight at this stage, that's scary. And Ramy actually said in this interview as well on the Full Menace podcast, which you can find the link in the description below, he basically said he's only messed up on his diet 2 to 3 times basically from the last Mr. Olympia. So he's been following a diet, it seems like, unless he had a sort of a period off after the Olympia, pretty much since the Olympia tour right now, which is huge for Big Ramy because last year he took 8 months off, which he does say in this interview as well. So that's massive. I think it's great news, and I think we're going to see probably, or at least one of the best versions of Big Ramy at 2022 Mr. Olympia.
Ramy, tell him in the last
the result.
Tell him in the last 2 weeks how many new followers you got.
100,000.
So that's crazy. 100,000 followers in 2 weeks. If you obviously do that over the whole year, you're getting 200 and something thousand a month. You're getting, you can get obviously millions doing that. And that's not even competing at the Mr. Olympia. I'm sure when Ramy actually wins an Olympia, the news really goes worldwide. You see it shared absolutely everywhere. He would gain a ton with each Mr. Olympia win in that sort of couple of days around the Olympia leading up to it and just after as well. So 100,000 in an off season, 13 weeks out from the Olympia, 15 weeks out from the Olympia, that is a huge gain on your social media.
How much cardio?
Yesterday we started high intensity for 45 minutes. Before I did that for myself because I like to do cardio like 30 minutes a day. Because Chad, he said, don't do cardio right now. But I love to do cardio because when I wake up, I can't go to eat and that's it. I have to do my cardio.
What form of cardio you guys doing? What form? What machine?
Stairmaster.
So he's doing high intensity cardio for 45 minutes, whether that means high intensity interval or whatever. Dennis James sort of didn't specify. And Milos's face when he actually said that he does 45 minutes of high intensity cardio, he just sort of like eyes opened up like, wow, that's a lot. And then he did say that, Chad said not to do cardio prior to basically, as of starting the cardio yesterday. And he's doing 30 minutes a day regardless because he just loves doing the cardio and just really loves doing it. So he's not exactly listening to what Chad Nicholls is telling him, and he's still growing like an absolute weed because Chad would be wanting him to grow as much as possible prior to starting that really hard cut down for the Mr. Olympia. And that's probably why he said, don't do cardio, Ramy. But Ramy is just going to do it anyway. And maybe it's a good thing for Ramy. Maybe it keeps his head straight and all that sort of stuff, having such a big name over there in Egypt.
But I never seen...
I love Milos. As soon as he sees that Physique Update go up on the screen, he's like, oh, and gets so excited. He's like the best bodybuilding fan. And the fact that he used to be an IFBB pro and he's still like such an invested bodybuilding fan makes me so happy. And I absolutely love that.
That was today.
That's now?
Go put over to the side. Today. Go to the side more.
Yeah, there you go. Jesus Christ.
Now, they're the type of physique updates we're seeing from Ramy at like 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, and he's 13 weeks out This is what the time he started training for last year's Mr. Olympia, and apparently he looked nothing like he looks like now. So this is scary for the other competitors. Now, will Big Ramy's physique continue to flow as well as it does? Will he lose a bit, adding the extra size this year? I don't think he'll lose enough to lose in Mr. Olympia if he comes in condition, if he stays dedicated, and that's the proviso. If Ramy stays on it at 100%, he will win 2022 Mr. Olympia, in my belief. But it's all about his mind. Can he stay 100% in it? He did want to quit. I think it was last year before, whenever it was, during his prep, and almost pulled out. So will Ramy be able to keep it together for this prep? Because he's obviously so good so far out, but it seems like the weight of his country and the expectation is actually going to keep him on this plan. And we might see the craziest, or one of the craziest bodybuilders of all time in 2022.
Oh, that's from the back. Beautiful. Hey, when are those pictures being published, Dennis?
They're not going to be published.
I can't. Somebody's going to screenshot right now.
They're going to be published this Sunday on this podcast.
All right.
So I love it. Love seeing that shot. Looks amazing. The back lat spread, when we go back to it and look at it, it is filled out top to bottom, the lower lats as well. And that's Big Ramy's biggest knock. Now, he may have his pants pulled up a little bit higher. He may have his hands a little bit higher. But it's encouraging to see, because I'm sure they're working on that as hard as possible. His insertions just aren't as low. The back doesn't look as the same as it used to. But I think that picture is definitely encouraging that we're going to see probably the best Big Ramy of all time. But let me know what you think in the comments below about everything that Big Ramy had to say when he talked about retirement. When do you think Big Ramy will retire from bodybuilding? I don't think he's going to try to run it and actually break the record like Milos tried to encourage him in this video at a certain point, which I don't think I included in the clips on this one. But I do think he'll try to at least go for another probably 2 to 3 Mr. Olympias, and then I think he'll hang it up. But let me know what you think on that in the comments below. And do you think we'll see the best Big Ramy of all time in 2022? Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Sorry I've been MIA lately. I have had a bit of an injury, have not been feeling good, had to take a visit to the hospital and whatnot and get a bunch of scans. So sorry about that. I will be back to regular programming. The podcast will be back, all that good stuff. Make sure you do obviously subscribe, hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up from myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding. Do a thumbs up, share it out on Instagram. All that stuff helps a huge amount. And anyway, this has been Desktop Bodybuilding, and I'm Xavier Wills, and we are out.